But first, this.
18-year-old Isabella Guzman is accused of having killed her mother, stabbing her 79 times.
Hoy heard his wife say, "Jehovah." The door opened. He saw Guzman standing at the doorway holding a knife. She never said anything as she exited the bathroom and was just staring straight ahead when she walked past him.
Timo is going to be armed with a knife.
After police found out she left the crime scene, the hunt to find her began.
After a nearly 20-hour search for 18-year-old Isabella Guzman, witnesses snapped these pictures of police locating her less than 1 mile south of her home in this parking lot.
I don't know what could have happened.
The details are horrific. A mother allegedly murdered by her teenager. Even more shocking, she saw the warning signs beforehand, going as far as to call the police on her daughter the very same day that she was murdered. Even more jarring, we've heard this before, young people snapping into violent fits of rage, even against those who love them the most, their parents. And parents may see the warning signs, but often still they can't get the help they need. Want to bring in Dr. Judy Ho. She's a clinical psychologist. And whether you're a parent, a step-parent, or even a neighbor, there are things that you can do right now if you do need the help. And doctor, we're so glad you're with us. This seems to be a roadblock for a lot of people. What is your advice if you have a teen in the house and you want to help? What's the first step you take?
Well, if you have a teen in the house and you're thinking that there might be something troubling the teen, that there is something maybe more serious than going on than just usual family problems, what you first want to do is call a couple of the resource hotlines that can help you figure this out.
Because there's some parents out there, doctor, that don't have insurance, and they may feel that they're at a loss if they don't have the money to get help.
Yes, that's a very common concern. And most of the times, parents are not aware that many of these resources are free or low cost. So to start off, the hotlines are always free. They're 24 hours, 7 days a week staffed. And you can always just get, a little bit of advice, some insight into your situation. Then those hotlines will then initiate referrals to agencies that they can actually afford. Most of the community agencies are either no cost or low cost. And by low cost, I mean somewhere under $40 per session. Sometimes they're even $5 or $10. So it's really affordable for everyone, and there's a lot of varieties of resources out there.
Which is great to hear for parents, because I'm sure when they call the hotline, they don't feel so alone, and they can have a resource there. We also hear people about talking about getting help for their child, but the child won't cooperate, doesn't want help. I feel like this happens most of the time, that the child thinks that they're not the problem. What do you do then?
Well, most of the time, the children don't think that they're the problem. Their perception of their own behaviors is very different from their parents. Adding to that, the stigma of getting mental health care. There still is very much a stigma about mental health illness in our culture. So these are very, very good concerns. And what happens when the child is under the age of 18 is that the parent can still use things like consequences and rewards to get the child to possibly be open to participating in counseling. So they might say, in exchange for you at least trying out counseling and going to 3 sessions, you can go to that concert that you've been talking about with your friends. That's one way. If things are really severe and you actually think the child is in danger of hurting themselves, hurting another person, or they're starting to not even be able to take care of their own basic needs, like dressing themselves, eating, sleeping, then what you will do is actually initiate an involuntary psychiatric hold. So you can call your local police department and tell them that you want an investigation to see if your child qualifies for that. And they'll take you in for 72 hours and do the evaluation from there and let you know what the next steps are.
And what about if you're a step parent and you'd like to get involved, as we're going to see in this next horrific case we touched on, where a daughter stabs her mother? The stepdad stepped in and called the authorities. Do you have any say if you're a stepmother or father?
I think a lot of times step-parents don't feel completely empowered to make decisions in the household. They may feel like the child might ostracize them and say, you're not my parent anyway, so what are you doing getting involved? And they just may not feel like they have the agency to do these things. And so I think it's really important that step-parents feel like they have that power, that responsibility to go ahead and take action when they notice that something is wrong and start that conversation.
All right, Dr. Judy Ho, thanks so much. What you said is some valuable advice. We appreciate that. And sometimes getting help for a mental illness is not the first step. Sometimes it's just getting a diagnosis. Again, Dr. Ho, thank you. And she has everything you need to know about what warning signs you need to look for in your child. Just go to HLNTV.com/Now in America for more information. You know, there seems to be so